Chosen one, the pain you endured was never meaningless. It was not random suffering, bad luck, or a sign that something was wrong with you. It was preparation. Every moment that stretched you beyond comfort, every experience that forced you to face fear, loss, or disappointment, was shaping you for something far greater than what you could see at the time. Comfort does not create strength. Ease does not produce wisdom. What you went through was designed to build endurance, clarity, and inner authority. There were moments when you did everything right and still watched things fall apart. You stayed loyal when it would have been easier to walk away. You gave effort when others gave excuses. You prayed, hoped, and waited, yet doors remained closed. In those moments, doubt crept in. You questioned your worth, your timing, even your faith. But chosen one, resistance appears only where there is potential. Pressure is applied only where something valuable is being formed. Pain is the tool preparation uses to strip away illusion. It removes the false sense of control you once relied on. It exposes where you depended too much on people, outcomes, or validation. And when those supports were removed, you were forced to stand on something deeper. That is when growth truly began. You learned that your strength was not external. It was already within you, waiting to be activated. Think about how certain experiences changed you permanently. The betrayal that taught you discernment. The loss that taught you gratitude. The silence that forced you to hear your own thoughts clearly. You did not leave those moments the same. Something shifted. You became more aware of patterns, more sensitive to energy, more protective of your peace. Pain refined your perception. At times it felt like life was dismantling everything you had built. Plans collapsed. Relationships fractured. Stability felt temporary. But destruction is often the first stage of construction. What was being torn down was not your future, but the fragile foundation you were standing on. You were being moved away from structures that could not support where you were meant to go. Chosen one, not every ending is a loss. Some endings are rescues. Some situations had to fall apart because they were limiting your growth. You were staying loyal to what was familiar, not what was aligned. So pain stepped in and closed doors you would not have closed on your own. It did what comfort never could. It pushed you forward. There were nights when you felt overwhelmed, mentally exhausted, emotionally drained. You carried weight that others could not see or understand. You kept showing up even when you felt empty. That endurance was not wasted. It was conditioning you to operate without constant reassurance. It was teaching you how to keep moving even when motivation was gone. That ability will matter in the next season. Pain also confronted you with yourself. It showed you where you avoided truth, where you tolerated less than you deserved, where you abandoned your intuition for approval. These realizations were uncomfortable, but necessary. You were being asked to mature emotionally and spiritually. Growth demanded accountability, and pain delivered it honestly. You may have noticed that after certain hardships, your priorities shifted. What once seemed important lost its power over you. What once drained you became unacceptable. That is preparation taking effect. You were being recalibrated. Your desires were changing because your capacity was expanding. Chosen one, preparation is rarely gentle. It does not ask permission. It arrives disguised as difficulty and leaves behind strength. It feels unfair while you're in it, but undeniable once you've passed through it. The pain you endured was building resilience, discernment, and depth. These qualities cannot be downloaded or borrowed. They must be lived. Nothing you went through was excessive. Nothing was accidental. The intensity matched the assignment ahead of you. If your future required less, your preparation would have been lighter. But you are being prepared for impact, for responsibility, for clarity in moments when others panic. As this new year approaches, understand this clearly: you did not suffer in vain. You were being shaped. You were being strengthened. You were being trained to stand firm, to see clearly, and to move with intention. The pain was not the end of your story. It was the beginning of your readiness. Chosen one, what hurt you did not weaken you. It revealed you. Chosen one, after the pain did its work, the process moved into a quieter but more demanding phase. This is the stage where isolation, confusion, and waiting tested you in ways suffering alone never could. You were no longer fighting visible battles. You were learning how to endure silence. And for someone being prepared, silence is not empty. It is instructional. There were moments when you expected support, and it didn't come. People you thought would stand with you faded into the background. Conversations that once felt natural became strained or shallow. At first, this felt like abandonment. You questioned why connection suddenly felt so difficult. But chosen one, what was happening was refinement. When your inner world is being restructured, the outer world must quiet down. You were being trained to stand without leaning. If help had arrived every time you struggled, you would have mistaken assistance for strength. So the process required you to sit with uncertainty, to trust without evidence, to move forward without applause. This is where real authority is formed, when you learn to rely on clarity instead of comfort. Isolation has a way of exposing patterns. Without constant interaction, you began to notice habits that once went unquestioned, where you over-explained, where you compromised, where you chased understanding instead of alignment. These realizations were not meant to shame you. They were meant to free you. You could not correct what you could not see, and silence allowed you to see clearly. Chosen one, some people withdrew not because you changed in a negative way, but because you changed in a way that no longer served their expectations. When you stopped shrinking, when you stopped absorbing emotional weight that was never yours, when you began setting quiet boundaries, alignment was disrupted. Not everyone can walk alongside growth. Some only know how to relate to your old wounds. This phase also challenged your patience. You wanted answers, you wanted movement, you wanted confirmation, but instead you were given stillness. Waiting teaches discernment. It forces you to examine motive. It trains you to distinguish impulse from intuition. The absence of immediate results was intentional. You were learning to act from readiness, not urgency. There were days when you felt suspended between who you were and who you were becoming. The old life no longer fit, but the new one hadn't fully arrived. That in-between space is uncomfortable. It feels like stagnation, but it is actually transition. Roots grow in darkness before anything appears above the surface. You may have noticed that during this time, your emotional reactions softened. Situations that once triggered you no longer had the same effect. You became more observant, less reactive. This was not numbness, it was regulation. You were learning how to hold steady, how to pause before responding, how to protect your energy. Chosen one, the waiting also strengthened your intuition. Without external voices influencing you, your inner guidance grew louder. You began trusting subtle signals. You felt when something was off without needing explanation. This discernment is not common. It is developed through quiet seasons where listening becomes survival. There were temptations to go back, to reach out, to reopen doors, to recreate familiarity. But something within you resisted. That resistance was growth. You were no longer willing to trade peace for comfort. You were no longer available for cycles that required you to abandon yourself. This phase was also removing your need for validation. You learned to sit with decisions without explaining them. You learned that clarity does not need agreement. The urge to be understood slowly faded, replaced by confidence in your own knowing. That shift is significant. It marks the transition from dependence to self-governance. Chosen one, preparation is not only about what you gain, it is also about what you unlearn. During this season, you unlearned overgiving. You unlearned rushing. You unlearned ignoring your own limits. These lessons are subtle, but they shape how you will move forward. You may not have realized it at the time, but this phase was building your internal structure. Discipline, emotional stability, focus. These qualities are not dramatic, but they are essential. They ensure that when momentum returns, you will not collapse under it. As this section of preparation comes to an end, understand this. The quiet did not mean nothing was happening. The waiting was not delay. The isolation was not rejection. It was all calibration. You were being aligned internally so that when the next door opens, you can walk through it without hesitation. Chosen one. This phase taught you how to remain steady when nothing is happening, and that is the strength that carries you into what comes next. Chosen one. Now you are stepping into the confirmation phase. This is where everything you endured begins to reveal its purpose, not all at once, but steadily, clearly, and without force. The chaos that once surrounded you has quieted because the internal work is complete. You are no longer in survival mode. You are no longer reacting to life. You are entering a season of deliberate movement, guided by clarity instead of emotion. This new year does not greet you with noise or spectacle. It greets you with stability. You may notice that your thoughts are calmer, your decisions more intentional, your energy more contained. That is not coincidence. It is the result of preparation taking root. You are no longer pulled in multiple directions because you know what matters. Distractions no longer have the same appeal because you understand their cost. Confirmation often arrives subtly. Instead of dramatic breakthroughs, you will experience alignment. Things will begin to make sense. Opportunities will feel clean rather than chaotic. Conversations will be direct instead of draining. You will sense when to move and when to pause without needing external reassurance. That internal certainty is one of the clearest signs that preparation has done its job. Chosen one. You are now equipped to handle what once would have overwhelmed you. Challenges may still appear, but they will not shake you the same way. You have developed emotional regulation, discernment, and patience. You have learned to observe before engaging, to listen before responding, to choose peace over impulse. These skills will guide you through this year with confidence. You may notice that people respond to you differently, not because you demand attention, but because your presence carries weight. Calm attracts trust. Clarity attracts respect. You no longer need to prove yourself or explain your journey. Your consistency speaks on your behalf. This is quiet authority earned through endurance. This year also brings responsibility. What you carry now influences others, whether you realize it or not. Your words, your decisions, your boundaries set examples. This is why you were prepared carefully. Influence without integrity collapses. You were trained in private so you could operate responsibly in public. You will also experience a stronger sense of timing. You are no longer tempted to rush outcomes or force results. You understand that movement without alignment leads to exhaustion. This year, you will act when clarity is present, not when pressure demands it. That restraint will protect you from unnecessary setbacks. Chosen one. Confirmation also means closure. You will no longer feel pulled back toward old cycles. The urge to revisit the past will fade because you have extracted the lesson. What once held emotional charge now feels neutral. This is healing completed. You can remember without being attached. As you move forward, you may be tested with familiar situations to confirm your growth. Old patterns may attempt to reappear in new forms. The difference now is that you will recognize them immediately. You will choose differently, not out of fear, but out of self-respect. That choice marks your evolution. This year is not about reinvention. It is about embodiment. You are no longer trying to become someone else. You are simply living as who you already are. That authenticity will guide your actions and attract what aligns naturally. You will spend less time explaining and more time building. Chosen one. Do not underestimate the power of steady progress. This year will reward consistency more than intensity. Small, intentional actions will create lasting results. You are laying groundwork that will support expansion later. Patience now will save you effort later. You may feel called to lead, create, or contribute in ways you once avoided. Not because you seek recognition, but because you recognize responsibility. Your perspective has depth because it was shaped by experience. Share it wisely, lead quietly, build intentionally. As the year unfolds, trust that what is meant for you will arrive without strain. You do not need to chase what aligns. You simply need to remain grounded in what you have learned. Preparation has positioned you. Confirmation will meet you where you stand. Chosen one, the pain was preparation. This new year is the confirmation. You are not guessing anymore. You are not waiting anymore. You are moving forward with clarity, strength, and purpose, ready for what comes next.